In the past 2 years, I've been really fortunate to have the opportunity to travel to both South America and Europe. Along the way, I've had a lot of good times, but also some trials and tribulations. And they have really come together, and now that I'm in a place that I am today, I can reflect back on everything and really be appreciative for the journey and the adventure through the wilderness that I've been on in the past 2 years. Alright, so this photo here on the left is my game plan. Right before I left, I put together this hefty agenda. I wanted to go around and kind of have a last little moment with all my friends and family at different colleges. I have some family down on the East Coast. So I hit the road. This poster you see back here are more so a bed sheet. My friends at Virginia Tech, they put this together for my farewell party. Buen viaje. And Espanol, that is good trip. So wishing me a good trip. Really a special time because these people were realizing I was going to be gone for a while, and they were sharing things and telling me things that, expressing how much I meant to them, how much they'll miss me. And it was a really special way to get sent off on this big new thing. Now it springs forth, do you not perceive it? So even before I left, I was really thankful for the opportunity to hear all those things from people. And of course, Mr. Wendell and you all were sweet enough to have a little acknowledgement for me here to send me on my way. That meant a lot. And pictures on the left and right are from the big day. It's super easy to sit around and tell people, yeah, I'm going to Uruguay, yeah, I'm studying abroad, but then the day comes and you're like, oh, I actually got to do this now. I actually got to go do this. So these two photos, I managed to not show my tears too much. And my buddy Will there on the right took on the responsibility of taking me to the airport, just jammed out to music one last time together, and it was a really special send-off. And then, after about 12, 13 hours on an airplane, I was finally in Montevideo, Uruguay. And I was going to make a way in the wilderness, this new opportunity, this new environment. This photo here is taken in front of there was an old barricade around the city back in the day. This is one of the last remaining parts of it, so super old monument. And in my hand there is Ernie the Eagle, mascot of Bridgewater College. I sent that back to everybody so that they could kind of promote the study abroad program and get other people to do so. Landing there was a big adjustment because my Spanish was super subpar. I hopped in the car after the airport with my host family and, hola, ¿cómo estás? That was about it, because at Bridgewater there's a lot of focus on the reading and the writing, but the language and the speaking was not as big of a practice. So a lot of adjustment there. But furthermore, a few days after I had landed, I received a FaceTime call from my family, and they shared that they had made the difficult decision to put down my childhood dog, Lady Gray. This was my first dog. I got her back in 5th grade. And on top of all those other adjustments, just hearing that I was away and I wasn't there to be there when they put her down, pretty heavy, pretty emotional stuff. It was a little rough. Furthermore, as I'm sure you guys are familiar, a few weeks after I left, Mimi had fallen and turned out that she had broken her leg. And when stuff like that happens, you just want to be home, you want to be with your family, you want to be able to support everybody. And I was on the other side of the world, so also a little emotionally tolling. But thankfully, I know I have some good people here at the church to keep an eye on her and visit her. The family really came together and worked together to make sure she had what she needed. So things like that really helped make the adjustment easier, knowing that things were kind of taken care of here, and I saw photos like this of Mimi getting the support she needed. So, despite all these adjustments and leaving the familiarity of here, all the people I knew, the language I knew, I learned very quickly once I landed that I had another family in Uruguay. From the moment I landed, they could have very easily just had me live in a room, go to class every day, been that guy that lives in their house. But they made a very specific point to integrate me into a part of their family, make sure I was included. The day that Lady Gray passed away, I was kind of in my room sulking a little bit. I didn't really go out, but my host sister had seen my Instagram post. I heard a knock on my door. I opened it up. She was waiting there to give me a big hug and tell me that she was thinking about me and really sorry to hear about that. And every single night at dinner, when I sat down, my host parents and my host family would ask, "How's your grandma? How's your grandma doing? What's going on?" And just having that level of care and interest in what was going on in the midst of trying to adjust, it just meant the world's difference. It was beautiful. Now, these are also two very important members of my host family, Mr. Odin and Rubia. As you can see, Odin was always a fan of supper time. He figured out pretty quickly that I was the guy that was going to give him crumbs and scraps. But especially with Lady Gray passing away, being able to go out into that living room and see Odin and Rubia and pet a pupper and just see a dog and spend time with them, it was really special. So I learned very quickly that I wasn't with my blood family, I wasn't with people that I knew my whole life, but I was quickly forming a close bond with these people in Uruguay. In addition to my host family, this crew here is all of the other exchange students that were at my university there. It would take forever to go through, but people from all around the world. Mexico, Switzerland, Italy, Spain, all backgrounds of life. So in addition to being in Uruguay and learning about that culture and that language, I was talking to these people that have been all over, traveled, all of their stories and all of their experiences. So a really special experience. And I'll get back to that later. This is an important key for later. And real quickly, this is the college I went to, Universidad Católica de Uruguay. Really cool because I picked Bridgewater because it's a small school. I didn't want to have a big lecture hall. I didn't want to have a professor I couldn't get in touch with. Helps me learn more, form connections. And UCU was the Uruguayan equivalent. Super small private university. I was in exchange classes with like 5 students at a time. And especially when you're learning a new language, it's intimidating to speak it. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to look silly. But in that small class size, I felt comfortable talking, and I was quickly able to develop my language. Now, school was all right. It was, but the best part of studying abroad was everything else that happened once I left school for the day. So I was based in the capital city of Montevideo, and just for reference, it's a super small city, relatively, and 1/3 of the entire population of Uruguay lives there. So, people everywhere. But when you go out and you're able to see some of the other, we have states, they call them departments, other departments of Uruguay, there's some really special places. So, this is Cabo Polonio. It's a little bitty village, and there's no addresses, there's no running water. It's just this hippie, rustic village on the coast. So, for example, I booked my hostel for the night, and in the reservation, it simply said, to get there, walk 300 meters from the lighthouse. So I made sure to get there plenty early because I thought I'd have to do some exploring there. And after much wandering through random people's backyards, I reached my hostel and had a place to stay. But the culture, the people there, everyone is just welcoming and kind. When you want dinner, there's not a restaurant. There's a guy cooking some chicken or something out of his house. You just walk up there and hand him some coins, and that's your dinner. And in the process, you get to talk, practice Spanish, and learn about what he's up to, what his story is. I also had the chance to visit Iguazu Falls. So if you think about Niagara, you have it on the Canadian and the American side. And Iguazu is very similar. So you have your Argentina and Brazil sides. When I was presenting it at the high school, I was researching and found a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. When she visited Iguazu Falls, she said, "My poor Niagara," because it is gigantic, it is monumentous. I think there's over 210 waterfalls in this system across the two countries. This picture above is me with some of my friends. There were other exchange students from the University of Mississippi. So this is us with our life jackets getting ready to hop on the boat. The guy driving the boat was absolutely crazy. He was in the back, and he had this smirk on his face like he knew something was about to happen, and he rammed the boat right up underneath the waterfall, and we got absolutely soaked and drenched. It was awesome. And this is the group of students I was with for that trip. So the Montevideo International Students Organization, separate from the university. Any exchange student in Montevideo can join this, and it's a chance to meet just other people, go out and do social things, a trip like this. So similar to the other exchange students at my university, just hanging out with these people and hearing where they were from. I made some friends from Portugal. Super awesome. Super awesome. And all that was fun, but the next activity was certainly the highlight of my abroad experience as far as out of the classroom activities. I had the opportunity to go jump out of an airplane and go skydiving, and this is in Punta del Este, which is another department in Montevideo, Uruguay. And kind of a funny story, when we landed out of this airplane, the guy kind of looks at me in the eye and he goes, he spoke English, he said, "How much did you weigh again?" I didn't look at the paperwork. I told him, "I won't tell you." And he goes, "That is the fastest I've ever fallen out of an airplane." And I just left it at that. I was like, "Oh, that's cool." So, very humbling experience, but Punta del Este is a peninsula, so when we jumped out, we were right over top of the ocean. Incredible, absolutely incredible. And anybody that knows me, even a little bit, knows that food is a big part of my life. I love food. And in Uruguay, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. There is a statistic that for every Uruguayan resident, every citizen, there are 4 cows in the country. So there are far more cows than people. Beef is eaten at almost every meal. And my host dad was an excellent grill master. They called their grill the Parisha. So he would go out to the Parisha, pork, beef, chicken, chorizo, any type of meat, just grill it up and we would feast. It was so good, so good. So all of this to say, after I had been there for a while, I was finding my place. I was getting adjusted. I was getting familiar. I really felt like I'd integrated into this life down there. This is a photo taken. We hung out with some of my host family. I don't even call them my host family, my Uruguayan family. Host is too official. My Uruguayan family is extended family, and they're from Argentina. And we met up with them, and they were very excited to see me because they wanted to practice their English. And a good estimate is they know about 1.5% of the English language, for reference. So they get out of the car, come up to me, "Hello, my favorite food is potato chips." Little sound bites from American shows and stuff we like to watch. They were just shooting them off at me. And it was really fun to practice my Spanish, and they were practicing their English and just hanging out. So I was integrated. I was there. It was really special, some of the best months of my life. But this wilderness, this process of adjusting, it all kind of got a little more difficult and convoluted. On June 25th, 2023, I had been down there about 4 months, and I had about a month and a half to go, and I was really excited because classes were about to end, so I was looking at a month of just travel time, get around, see some South America, explore. But I was waiting for an Uber one night, and things shifted pretty quickly. I was robbed. And I lost my wallet. And in that moment, I had fallen, and he ran off with the wallet. Now, I wasn't about to let that slide, so my instinct was, we're going on a foot pursuit here. We're going. So as I go to get up off the ground, I kind of fall back down and realize something is not good in my left leg. I'm a skateboarder. I've had a lot of falls, and I kind of just discounted it. Oh, I sprained my ankle really bad again. I'll be on crutches for a week. But we went to the hospital, and I sat down, took some x-rays, and the doctor started pressing on my leg and said, no bueno. It's no good. It turns out I had broken my fibula, and a lot of the soft tissue down around my ankle had been severely disrupted. So at this point, we kind of realized things had taken a turn, and I wasn't going to be able to finish my semester out like I had originally planned. Now, in addition to my host family, I got a top-tier mom out there that did not hesitate at all to hop on a plane, flew right down there and made sure she was by my side during that time with appointments, and it was good to have her there for support. Something familiar, something that I've been with my whole life. And that's really an important part of this. In the wilderness, and when things get dark, things get hard, and you're down on your luck, you just look around, and I saw that God had put people around me, this host family, my mom. People were put in my life to make sure that I got out of there okay. I got home, and I got safe. So even as dark as that was, there was still a light there. There was still an aspect of positivity. And if it weren't for this event, I wouldn't have seen a certain side of my host family. They paused their entire life for me. They stopped everything, took me to appointments, made sure I had a cup of water at my bed, made sure I had a shower. They were by my side. And that went far beyond their responsibilities as a host family. So that's why I call them my Uruguayan family. So Mom and I were sitting in after a pretty discouraging doctor's appointment. Pretty much learned that if I had surgery there, I was going to have to get 2 screws, and I would have to stay another 2 months, get another surgery, and fly home. So we go back to my room, and she looks at me and she goes, what do you want to do? What are we doing? What's the move? And little did she know, I already had return plane tickets home popped up on my laptop. That was the next step. I had to get home. I had to go. And there was a really bad risk of blood clots because there was blood in my leg where it wasn't supposed to be. And even a super healthy person on an airplane, that risk for blood clots increases. So that was kind of a iffy risk. And I looked at Mom dead in the eye and I said, this risk of blood clots, it's scary, it's bad, but if I can be home with my friends and family back in Strasburg, Virginia, we're gonna run it. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna go for it. So, sure enough, everything turned out okay. I kept my leg moving on the airplane. This is a photo here from the grand goodbye. Definitely not how I wanted things to wrap up, but yeah, this was a tough goodbye. This was very not how I wanted things to end, not the grand farewell that I anticipated. So I returned home, went to the beautiful, beautiful Winchester Medical Center, a hospital where everybody speaks English, a hospital where I know what the protocol is likely going to be, and I got my surgery. And shortly after, a little background, we went straight from the airport to Valley Health, so I had not been home before my surgery. We just needed to get this thing operated on. But when I did get home, Mimi was waiting for me, also in recovery at that time. And this is the first photo back. Excuse me. Mom pulled up the car in the front yard, foot propped up on the console, and got to catch up with Mimi. And for the next month or two, we went through that recovery process together. I crunched over to see her, and it was really cool to be back and go through that rehabilitation process with her. And overall, it was really just nice to be home for the summer, be home. It felt like there was just weight lifted off my shoulder. I was back in familiarity, saw everybody. Mr. Wendell and Miss Judy, one of the first visitors I had, brought me some Italian touch, had a good sub. And it was a really important part of the healing to just kind of decompress and be back. And another highlight is, from being back that summer, I did not have to miss out on the DeMarco family Christmas and July get-together. I crutched on in there, and we watched Home Alone. Miss Janice dressed up as the Statue of Liberty, and we had a good time. So, yeah, just being back in that familiarity. So God will bring them home again through the wilderness, but the wilderness will burst forth in life and joy as they made their way home. So I got home, did some therapy, got some of that stuff processed that had occurred down there. Started physical therapy with Miss Shelley and Laura here, and kind of got back on my feet and headed back to Bridgewater. So I got back to Bridgewater for the fall semester. Got to catch up with all my Spanish professors. Everybody was, of course, wondering when the world happened. And as I was sharing this story, I felt this little itch. There was this little something. It was just an unresolved ending. Because every time I had to end that story, I got robbed and came home. And that wasn't fair to the experience, because that was not a testament to all of those connections and all those people I had met down there. And I don't know about you, I'm just not a fan of happy endings. I mean, bad endings. I love happy endings. Not a fan of the bad endings. So I had a return plane ticket home in August. Obviously, plans shifted there a little bit, and that did not happen. So instead of getting the ticket refunded, I had the chance to flip it for another ticket. So I sat down one day after that itching just got too bad. I couldn't stand it. And I booked my plane ticket, and I went back to Uruguay for spring break. I went right back down there, and boom. You see those things on Facebook, you see those things on the news where they're at the airport, and it's like a big emotional reunion, and I got to have one of those. I got to run through customs. I saw my host sister and my host mom standing there for me, and it was just like a surge of healing right there in that moment. That moment right there healed way more than I could have healed back here. I also returned back to my university and visited some of the professors there. I was told by the study abroad coordinator that I got the award for the quickest to return to Uruguay. They never had a student return that quickly, because I left in beginning of July, and this was in February of the next year, so I got right back down there. I was tired of telling that sad ending. So I got to go. This is one of my favorite professors, Nestor, and sitting down with him and talking was kind of a really big realization moment for me, because I was able to sit down and talk to him in Spanish and explain things and talk. And he said, in Spain, he was like, the first time you sat in my class, I was wondering why you were here. he couldn't speak any Spanish. But by being down there and being immersed in it, you can't escape it. Everywhere you go, they're speaking Spanish. And I was able to pick it up enough to go back and communicate with everybody, see some good friends, and it truly felt like I was just flying down to see a home on the other side of the world. It was incredible. Unfortunately, it was in the time of my spring break, so I only had 8 days down there. But those 8 days were filled to the brim with stuff, spending time with my host family. I got to finally go to a soccer game down there and see my host family's favorite team. And this is on the day that I left to come back. Much happier smiles and feelings than the last farewell photo that I showed you all. Because this is a We had closure, we saw it again, and most importantly, I wanted them to know that Uruguay was a special place. It always will be a special place, and that one little incident is not going to influence how I feel about it. I will go back. As soon as my bank account says it's okay, I will be flying right back down there to see them and spend time again. I will always go back there. Bad circumstances, bad event, but not defining of that experience. During my rehabilitation period, a lot of time sitting at home and binging some TV shows because I couldn't walk. And people would visit, and I would kind of joke with them. I would say, I made these friends that were also exchange students, but everything happened. I didn't get to say goodbye. I didn't get to have a final moment with them. I guess I'm just going to have to do a world tour at some point and just go see them all. But you guys may be familiar with the phrase that every joke contains a little piece of truth in it. So the more I told myself this, I said, wait, I could do that actually. So that birthed the idea of this past May, I did a backpacking trip across Europe, visited these 9 different countries, and was able to meet up and spend time with all of these international students that I met in Uruguay and got to see them in their home country. I had a local tour guide for all these places to show me around and just talk about cherry on top. It was awesome. Now for this trip, Dad took me to the airport and I walked out to the car and I had my LL Bean backpack that I take to class every day. And he goes, "Is that all you're taking?" And it was. That's it. I just had some clothes, a toothbrush. That's all I needed. And I had no plans. I had a plane ticket there and a plane ticket home, but I had no reservations, no plans, nothing. I decided I was going to land there, and each day was just going to happen as it happened. I'll end up where I end up and stay in hostels, which are like $10 a night over there. Super, super cheap way to get around and see a lot of places. So it was very bare bones. By the end of the 24 days, I was certainly ready to fly home and be back in my bed with a nice warm shower. But I just want to go through some of the highlights of that trip. I won't go through the entire trip, but in France, I had the chance to go and hang out at the Eiffel Tower. Actually, after this photo, I went to McDonald's, got some authentic French, they have different menus over there. And I came back, and at night they put a bunch of sparkling lights on the tower, sat there and ate my burger from McDonald's and enjoyed the ambiance of Paris. So, really cool. To the right here, that's my friend Swan. He lives in a small, they call it a village outside of Paris, about 2 hours south, called Auxerre. Really beautiful old architecture, beautiful cathedral. And more importantly, I got to stay at his house with him and meet his family, have dinner with his family, and hear about their lives. He doesn't speak the best English, and they speak no English. But between the little English I knew, and we had both studied Spanish, we sat there tossing around Spanish, English, and French, and we were able to get these understandings across. But to sit there and be able to communicate with these people from a completely different background, different language, and hear about their lives, I was just like, I didn't want to go to bed. I could have talked all night with them. It was so cool. And I'm sure you guys have been staying in touch. The Olympics have started. When I was over there in May, they were starting to put all the infrastructure up. So one night, I just walked like 5 miles through the city to see what I could see. And I came across this cool little plaza here. So this must be an area where they're doing like ceremonies or something. But it's super cool to see where they're setting up for the Olympics. In France, I also had the chance to go visit, this is Normandy Beach, so the site of the D-Day battle. All throughout high school, all throughout college, history was a chore. I never really enjoyed it. I was like, I just gotta know these dates and move on, whatever. But I decided to go visit this, and to be there in person and see this site and learn about what happened there is just, there's no words. Absolutely, absolutely breathtaking. And being part of a backpacking trip without any itinerary, when I chose to visit this, I came to this small town and realized the beach was actually like a 45-minute drive outside of this town. And there was no buses, there was nothing. I was confused. Well, apparently on Sundays, all public transport in this town that takes you down to Normandy Beach are closed. There's no public transport. So I called an Uber, ridiculously expensive, and this guy shows up, looks at his phone and sees where I'm going. He goes, that's pretty far. In my head, I'm like, you're getting paid, like, just take me. And he goes, you realize everything's closed there. There's nothing going on there. It's a ghost town. And I said, well, I'm just doing this trip on the seat of my pants. I was like, I didn't know that. Like, I just figured I'd come here and see what happened. This man, this Uber driver, not only took me to the beach, but he ended the Uber ride, got out of the car, and gave me a private, personalized tour of all the monuments that I would have gotten if people were staffed and talking about it. But just took time out of his day and gave me my own personal tour. So I got to see all the cool monuments, all of the statues, learn about why they're there, see some of the old tanks. They have the bunkers up on top of the hill where the Germans were stationed, shooting down at the beach. And he showed me that. And I was like, this guy didn't have to do any of that. But I just talked to him. I told him my story. I was backpacking. That's just, once again, another one of those examples. There's just people put this journey through the wilderness. There's just people sprinkled in there along the way that go out of their way and make sure that you have a meaningful experience, even when things don't go quite right as planned. So, really, really nice of them. I did stop in Italy for a few days. I got to go see the Colosseum. I can confirm that the Tower of Pisa does indeed lean. That was one of my friends were skeptical, so I had to confirm that for them. But really cool to see that ancient architecture. I learned that I thought the floor was just concrete in there, and I didn't understand what all that was, but it turned out there was a wood floor originally there that decayed over the years. So that's like underneath where all the fighters would stay and get ready to go out in battle. In Portugal, I stopped to see my friend Tomas. He lives in a small town called Ericeira, about 2 hours south of Lisbon, the unofficial beach capital of Portugal. Similar to Cabo Polonio, you walk around and it's just a bunch of long-haired hippies going out to surf for the day. Hey, how are you doing? Where are you from? Just everybody wants to talk and meet you. It was really cool. And super awesome to catch up with him. He was probably one of the people I was closest with over in Uruguay. So he had all kinds of questions about what happened, how I came back, how I was doing, how the leg was. And once again, just a beautiful end to a chapter there. Just a beautiful end. And this is a statue in Lisbon, and it's up on this big mountain that overlooks the city. This picture doesn't do it justice. It is absolutely massive. Did you go there, Preston? Did you see that?
Yeah, we did see it.
Yeah, super. It's on this big tall column, and his shadow just reflects down. It's a really beautiful monument. In Switzerland, I got to stop and see my friend Tori. He's super impressive. He speaks 4 different languages, and so as we were going around, they have different variations of German they speak in Switzerland, so he was just rattling off different things. Switzerland is one of the places I decided to FaceTime and catch up with Megan, and she said, make sure you stop and get some chocolate. And I flipped the camera, and I was already right outside of the chocolate place. That was the first place I stopped off the train. I knew I had to try some Swiss chocolate. And it was super rich. I actually needed to go buy some potato chips after I ate it because just needed some saltiness to balance that out. I could feel the cavity kind of forming. But yeah, so he lives in Zurich. That's the town we were walking around. They have a cool cathedral there. And it was built on a site where 2 saints were said to have come and passed away. So lots of history surrounding that. All of those buildings and all those churches, it's hard to conceptualize that they were built and running before America was even a concept, before people even came over here and built this country. these buildings were here. So it's just hard to conceptualize how old and special these buildings are. In Austria, I stopped to see my friend Amina, and she has done something really cool after her time in Uruguay. She came back and sought out people from Argentina and Uruguay in her community in Graz, Austria. So this photo on the right is some people from Argentina and Uruguay. There's a type of drumming circle that is very popular down there called Cadambe. It's a very large cultural aspect of Uruguay. And there's no plan, there's no set song they're playing. They just meet up with these drums and rhythmically just base stuff off of each other. It's all improv and it's super impressive. A bunch of other Argentinians came up and everybody was dancing and having a good time. But to be in Europe, in Graz, Austria, and be surrounded by the culture from Uruguay and Argentina, I was like, everything's just coming together here. Like, this is beautiful, like, incredible. Now, this next part was not only my favorite city, but also had a super awesome highlight of my trip. I originally had a loose itinerary for this backpacking trip, and then my host sister informed me that they were going to be vacationing in Europe at the same time I was going to be over there. So I just upended the whole itinerary and made sure that I was in Madrid, Spain, at the same time that my Uruguayan family would be there on vacation. So I met up with them and spent 3 days just exploring the city, hanging out with them again, just making more memories and spending more quality time with them. And to look at this, and then to also look back on everything that happened, it's full circle. That did not stop the bond that I had with them. Fun side note about Spain, I planned on spending a day there. I got there and realized I loved it, and I left after like 3.5 days. So if you ever get a chance, Spain is absolutely awesome. Also, in Germany, I got to visit the Dachau concentration camp. This is one of the first that started operations, and it was one of the last to get liberated. Once again, I've learned about the Holocaust multiple times in school. I kind of understood what happened, but to be there in that place and see all those original buildings and to see the original gas chambers, the ovens, everything's original. They haven't changed it. It's just heavy. It's super heavy. It's a lot to take in. I just found myself standing in one place for a while. You can't take it all in, but trying your best to just understand that these people were here and had to experience these things. Just awful. But I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to see this, and it was very moving. And since we're in church today, I figured it was suiting to also share that there are cathedrals everywhere in Europe. I had my fair share of cathedrals when I left. I'd seen them. These are some of my favorite pieces of stained glass work that were part of it. So this one on the right here they actually took like a gem or like a piece of stone and sliced it really thinly and pieced it together up in the window here. Absolutely beautiful. And just standing here and looking at these intricate tiny pieces of glass that thousands of years ago, somehow they managed to put this together and it's still here today. It's just, once again, hard to wrap your mind around that. So the wilderness will rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it will burst into bloom. It will rejoice greatly and shout for joy. So I consider the whole presentation here kind of my wilderness. From the day I departed from Uruguay to the day I returned from my Europe trip. It's all a well-rounded circle. The wilderness rejoiced and blossomed. I was in a very dark place. It was very scary, but I came out of it and sought additional opportunities and ways to meet up with these people that have changed my life and influenced a lot of where I'm at today. This picture here is really cool. This was about 3 weeks ago, actually. My host family came up to the U.S. There was a big soccer tournament, and they followed around the country. And they were coming to Charlotte, North Carolina. So I came in to the kitchen. I said, Mom, my parents from another passport are going to be pretty nearby. Make sure you're off. And she got super excited. We were able to go down. And just to see my Uruguayan parents and Mom interacting again in such happy circumstances, there's no words. It was really, really incredible. It was like the wound had fully healed. Everything has come full circle, and I am moving forward very grateful for all of the ups and downs that happened over these past 2 years. So this picture, I just kind of took because I was walking through Charlotte and I was like, oh, this is cool. But when I was making this presentation, I thought it perfectly suited the idea that I'm talking about today. You have this darkness, you have this scariness behind her, but she has spray paint and she's painting white. Beautiful, beautiful blossoms. The wilderness is blossoming through the darkness. And I don't think it was a mistake that I took this picture. I think it all comes together. This right here perfectly describes this God abroad wilderness journey that I've been on. And that is God abroad. That is God abroad. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it.